Oh my gosh.
The joke is that his sword is coming to life and doing weird things. That's not the joke.
Welcome to another episode of Is This for Kids? I am Jonathan Blevins.
Hi, I'm Katie Rubalcaba.
And we love doing this podcast together.
Every single time we come into this room, I think to myself, I have no greater joy than staring into your bearded eyeballs.
That is the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Thank you.
Yes, and it was completely genuine.
We are not married to each other, but we are married. I've been married for 10 years. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old girl, 2 boys and a girl.
That's right. And my marriage is about to get its driver's license. We have been married for 16 years. I have a 15-year-old daughter, 13-year-old son, 10-year-old daughter, 9-year-old son, 2-year-old daughter.
That is impressive.
It's so many kids that really enjoy basketball. Felt I needed a whole team.
Yeah, you have a whole team. That's great for family picnics and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit expensive going to theme parks, but otherwise it's great.
Which you continue to do every year, though. So
if I can save up the funds, patreon.com/isthisforkids.
Oh my gosh, we have to make sure that's ready when this is released now.
I was just kidding.
Also, the purpose for those of you who are just joining us and you saw us on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or any other clip that you saw of us being hilarious and inspiring you to check out an episode, the purpose of this podcast, which is not for kids.
This podcast is not for kids.
It is for parents and or people who are taking care of children to help you navigate the digital world, which is crazy and tough to navigate with children.
Full of stuff that you like. I don't even know what that is. My kid's home. Tell me to do the gritty. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Is the gritty for kids?
The gritty is for kids, but the song that it comes from is not.
Right. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
One of the, I'm reminded, since we just started this podcast a couple weeks ago, I'm reminded of just over and over reasons for why we decided to start this. And it mostly just comes from like thinking that movies were okay because I remember them being awesome when I was a kid, and then showing them to my kids without prepping them at all because I forgot what actually happens, and I just have this weird memory that it was perfect. Has this happened to you before? Or
oh my gosh, yes. So couple of summers ago, it was during COVID, right? When you're just going through every single thing that's on the internet looking for something to watch. We ran across a childhood classic, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Do you remember this movie?
I do remember. I remember loving it.
Fantastic, right? It was such a good... I always knew there was a chastity belt in Robin Hood Men in Tights. I got that it was metal underwear. I think I vaguely understood that it had something to do with sex, but I wasn't sure what it was. And rewatching it as an adult, that is a bawdy movie. There is a lot of very intense jokes in there. Like, you remember the song where he's singing, "The night is young and y'all so beautiful." I thought his sword was just, out of control. Like, it was the joke.
Gosh.
The joke is that his sword is coming to life and doing weird things. That's not the joke. That's not the joke.
Forgot about that. Yeah. Well, this is to your credit why you're okay with some people who are a little bit younger watching things because they wouldn't get it. Right, I didn't get that when I was a kid.
You didn't get it. And now that I'm telling you about it, you're like, oh, that was a boner joke and I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a penis, so it was not that weird.
I still didn't understand it. Wow.
Yeah.
Now I have to go back and watch that.
Not with your kids.
Not with the kids.
I wouldn't recommend it.
We hit this recently where, like, I think I've mentioned this before. My 7-year-old now is just really emotional. Like if he sees an injustice, he gets really upset and really sad. And my mom remembers me doing that, but not to the level of him. Like he will like run to his room sometimes and like just cry because something really upsets him. And during movies, he's just really emotional. If anything sad happens, he just it's not like a slow trying to fight it little tear like when in Born to Be Wild when I was a kid. First movie I ever cried in was Land Before Time. But the first movie as like an older kid that I cried in was Born to Be Wild, where this kid becomes friends with this gorilla and then he has to release the gorilla in the end, which is best for both of them, but heart-wrenching. And I just went to the bathroom and didn't realize that like when you cried, your eyes would get red. Yeah. So as soon as I was done crying, I came out and my mom was like, "Are you okay, sweetie?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine." And she's like, "You were crying." I'm like, "No." But he doesn't do that.
Oh.
He just in the chair, sad part happens.
Moms need to just let their sons cry in the bathroom.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Well, ours does it just on the couch. And we don't tell him to stop crying. We just try to like work him through it.
Yeah.
But we're watching Free Willy because my wife is convinced that movie was good. And I was like, I think it might be a little sad. And she's like, "No, I think it'll be fine." He cried about 12 times in that movie. And I'm just convinced, the more that I think about that film and films like it back in the day, that they were made just to make us cry. Like, maybe back then that's like what we wanted or what our parents wanted. I know my mom cried all the time to like Touched by an Angel and shows that were on TV and movies.
You're gesturing at me like you think I'm going to cry.
Are you going to cry?
I don't cry.
Well, there's a scene in Free Willy where my favorite character up until that point is talking to this kid who's like 8 or 9. He's trying to convince him that his new family is like a better family than his mom, but this kid is holding on hope that his mom is going to come back for him. And in order to prove that point, this social worker looks at the kid and says, when your mom dropped you off, she didn't even look in the rearview mirror. She didn't even turn around. And my son just immediately just like scream crying. And I'm just like, and at that point, I can't even be like, it's okay, buddy. I'm like, yeah, that was pretty horrible, wasn't it?
That was awful. But I mean, it does give you like a nice jumping off point for like, this is some kids' realities. And, you know, if you see kids in school that are, you know, I always come back to like, it's really good to have representation for people so that they can see themselves in a movie, and that's a good thing. But then when they're not depicted positively, that's a little rough there.
Yeah. I agree with you.
It's a good way
I think
to talk empathy.
It's really good to show 8-year-olds stealing food from fancy restaurants, stumbling upon a killer whale trapped in a tiny little pool, and then finding out that they are like a whale and belong in the open world. That's very realistic.
It is so many children's lived reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I can
to be punished and meant to work at 8 years old in an aquarium and take care of a whale.
Yeah. Can you imagine a judge being like, you know what? To learn a lesson, I think that these aquatic mammals are who needs to suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whale is just like you, alone with no one.
With no one. Oh my gosh.
So and there was a scene too in that movie where the dad is like, let's just give him back. Like the kid.
The kid?
Yes.
Oh, I don't even remember
that. And that is just not how that, first of all, that's probably not how that conversation would go. And if it was, no, like a dad would for sure make sure that the kid doesn't hear that.
I think that you might have a very rosy picture of foster care, but
but they're good parents. That's the thing. It's not like they were supposed to be bad foster care
parents.
That's
true.
They're supposed to be great ones, and he still said that. And Angels in the Outfield, same kind of thing. The dad looks at the kids and says, when the Angels win a pennant, we'll be a family. If anyone ever said that about the Detroit Lions, we'll be a family when the Lions win a championship, they wouldn't have had a family for 50 plus years. Well, 70.
But this would be the year.
It would be the year.
It's the year. Welcome into that.
But this is why I'm glad we're doing this podcast, because like, not to say don't watch Free Willy.
Just to gas up the Lions?
Yes.
Yeah, mostly.
And also not to say don't watch Free Willy or don't watch Angels in the Outfield, but just like remember that this is a thing that happened, and maybe prep your kid.
Be prepared to have some kind of a conversation in there. Because it's not like when we were kids where our parents didn't really have to talk to us about anything. We just sort of had to deal with it alone quietly in our closets, or apparently in your case, the bathroom. But nowadays, there's a little bit more of an expectation that you're going to be talking to your kids and like helping them process their emotions. And if you don't know what you're learning to process in advance, it's going to be, it can be a little rough.
And we have to do that even with video games now because they're so much more complex. But when I was a kid, you didn't have to do that with video games because Mario and Sonic were just games you could play. There was no meaning. There was no purpose. It was just fun.
You jump over the mushroom thing.
Yeah.
Jump on the mushroom thing.
And that was
eat
it.
The mushroom.
And now those two movies, those two video games, are massive blockbuster movies.
That's true. Most recently, we had Mario come out, but then we always want to look at a new thing and an old thing, right?
Yeah.
So Sonic has two movies that we're actually going to kind of touch on. Sonic being the older of our options, Sonic 1 and 2.
Yeah. So you're getting a 3 for today: Mario and the 2 Sonic movies.
Yes.
What are your general thoughts about the Mario movie? Starting there.
All right. So
I think you told me you fell asleep.
No,
you didn't.
I thought I had fallen. So I have fallen asleep in almost every movie I have seen since I gave birth to my first child.
Okay.
Like it's just if it happens after 8 o'clock, I'm not going to remain conscious. And then nowadays movie theaters do the seats that like with the feet out. Do you have the recliner
like they want you
seats?
to sleep.
Yeah, it's dark and there's a heater on this seat. Come on. Mm-hmm. I have a fancy movie theater, very fancy, near me. And if you guys are interested in giving me free tickets for life, hit me up because I will. Okay. Anyway, so the Mario movie I actually stayed awake through, which was pretty fantastic for me. That means that it was at least entertaining enough to keep me conscious, which is important. And I think for me that this was a lot of just throwback stuff. This was all of my childhood things, and I just kept saying, Super Smash Brothers and Donkey Kong is in there. My favorite with the Mario Kart, which was my favorite racing game of all time. I don't think there is a better racing game out there. All of those things got thrown in there. Oh,
You can't just say things like that.
watch me.
And then Star Wars pod racing. Continue though.
Okay, whatever.
N64 was awesome. Or Dreamcast.
The N64 Mario Kart was my least favorite of them.
Oh yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So throwbacks.
Yeah, it was just full of throwbacks and full of things that, really resonated with the millennial generation. These were things that made us laugh that maybe our kids didn't even know what they were laughing at, what we were all excited about. Yeah. So I felt like it kept me interested the entire time, which is hard to do in a movie for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pretty critical during the entire Mario movie.
Well, you are hypercritical.
I'm not. I have what's called, I took one film class and I learned this. This is the only thing. I'm not kidding you when I tell you this is the literal only thing I learned in my movie class. I have what is called a willing suspension of disbelief. That's all I learned. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had it, but I didn't know what it was. And when someone put like a name to it, I was like, that's me. Mm-hmm. I can watch a movie and completely disconnect from all reality. I don't have to think about like how unrealistic it is. I just can dive in. Yeah. And then when I'm done, I can be like, that was awesome. And some people will come out of the movie and be like, so unrealistic, there's no chance. That's just not me. So the fact that Mario, I'm super critical, was actually weird to me because, okay, spoiler alerts ahead. I don't know if you have to say that.
I would assume that if they're listening to this podcast, they are interested in having it at least mildly spoiled.
Okay,
for them.
We're not going to give like the whole plot away or anything. But Mario and Luigi are idiot brothers in this movie that are not even good at the one thing they're trying to do, which is be plumbers. Mm-hmm. And they make a really, what I think is a cool commercial, but no one else seems to like it. Their whole family roasts them for it.
Yeah.
They have almost zero talent at all and ruin everything. Mm-hmm. And then they get sucked up into this thing so that they end up going to this Mario world where they have to save Princess Peach.
Yes.
Mario is separated from Luigi, so he's trying to find his brother and save his brother. He meets Princess Peach, who trains him how to be good at anything, which I'm fine with. I think I'm fine with Princess Peach being the hero. Mm-hmm. Totally cool. But why does Mario have to be dumb? Do you know what I mean? In the video game, she's always trapped by Bowser. How does that keep happening?
Yeah.
And Mario saves her every time and already has the skills.
Right.
But in this movie, she has to teach him to be even okay.
To just be functional in the world.
And it takes like, I think it is like a night and day twice. It's like 24 to 48 hours of him like failing this obstacle course in order to finally be like okay enough to go on this adventure with her.
Right.
Again, not like a gender thing for me. Just weird that Mario in his own movie is a hero. Mm-hmm. And then Princess Peach turns him into an actual hero and then she needs to be saved. I don't get it.
Well, so the only reason that she needs to be saved, right, is because Bowser's in love with her?
The greatest villain ever. And
he carries that movie.
Who?
He carries
Yes.
it. Yes.
Jack Black, that song.
So good.
Peaches, 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 peaches. I love you. Oh, it's so good.
I know every woman watching this podcast right now is jealous of your wife just all of a sudden.
Do you think?
No, not even a little bit. Not even.
Yikes.
No, but like, that was kind of a bummer for me because it seemed like he had a pure motivation. Like he's like, I want to rule with you, me and my star and you. We're like, to me, I was like, oh, Bowser's not really a bad guy.
Yeah.
This felt like a secret story about prejudice. She was against him because he was a turtle.
Wait, so you're telling me that Bowser is kind of like Gaston in that really he's kind of the hero?
I'm not ready to have that conversation, and no one on the internet is.
Okay, so Beauty and the Beast next time, maybe.
Next time. Yeah.
You're right. He does carry the movie. He's super funny. Overall, I find the movie was fine. All the things you talked about, the nostalgia pieces, they were fine.
Yes.
It was fun. It didn't make a ton of sense, though. And why are we making all of these video games into movies? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Because my kids don't know what Mario is.
Oh, really? You didn't go home and play with them afterwards?
No,
like, that's
they
what
still
the
haven't
movie
played
did.
games yet. They haven't played Mario yet.
That's right.
So they liked it, though. I asked my son today, I'm like, did you like Mario? Remember it? And he's like, yeah. I was like, what did you not like about it? He's like, it was a little scary. He's 8. He was scared of like the little skeleton things.
Okay.
My kids are like me, wusses when it comes to that stuff so far.
Yeah. I think that the only thing that I would say was maybe a little bit questionable about whether or not it's for kids is the hilarious to adults, but probably a little weird for kids, raindrop guy, fire drop. What was he? He was
I don't
in a
even
cage.
know.
The little guy in the cage who was like saying weird, morose things like, the sweet embrace of death will come for us eventually. And you're like, that was a little dark. My kids kept running around saying a couple of his lines. That was a little bit much. That was a little.
But it's true. Remember your death, you know?
Yeah, it was Memento Mori, but like with a weird, Nietzsche thrown in there. I don't know that I want my kids quoting Nietzsche at this point.
Not yet.
Not ever.
So what age would you say Mario is for? Is Mario for kids?
Yeah. So we took all of our whole family to see that in the theater, including the 2-year-old. The 2-year-old had a hard time sitting still through it, but she's 2. So, but I would say that if your kid can handle the movie theater, I would say it's for any age.
Yeah. If your kid is wildly scared of things like skull turtles, just know that that's in there. But even then I was like, this isn't bad at all.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was super good for kids. We might have even taken, that might have been Kiara's first movie at 3. I think it was. So yeah, we saw it with all 3 of ours. They loved it. They thought it was hilarious. And they don't get any of the plot points that I had mentioned that I didn't like. And it's also visually beautiful. It's a lot to handle for me. Like, it's almost too much, but it was super tough to look away.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The Rainbow Road thing from the Mario Kart was so fun to watch. I had a great time with that. So visually, it's fantastic.
I'm going to go 4 and up.
Okay. I mean, that would be when I would think a kid could stay in a theater. So that's fine. Anyway, yeah.
So Mario came out after Sonic the Hedgehog came out. 2 legendary. Oh, it's funny because Mario's like a legendary game, really for all of us because of Super Smash Bros. And Mario Kart Racing. But Mario first came out a long time ago.
Yes.
And my dad played it. And then Sonic, what?
Like,
did I just call my dad old?
It was 98, like 83.
Yeah, that's old.
Okay.
I wasn't even alive.
I
was just a twinkle in my parents' eyes.
This podcast is not for kids.
This is not for kids.
It's not for kids. It's not for kids.
But and then Sonic was a game that we played.
Yeah.
Right? Where
well, I didn't have a Sega. So
I did.
As far as Sonic game wise, I feel like Mario was more people had a Nintendo than ever had a Sega. I can't even name another game that was on Sega.
Maybe only because of N64, but I think that way more people owned a Sega than owned a regular Nintendo or even a Super Nintendo. At the time, Sega was like the
There's
first.
There's no way that's right.
Yeah, hear me out. Sega was like we can probably look this up, but Sega was probably the first the first system that everyone who's now a millennial owned.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Super Nintendo.
We're gonna look this up. We're gonna look at how many
Super
in
Nintendo.
just America.
Yeah.
But we'll have to look this up. But it'll be fun. But so Sonic.
Yes.
This little hedgehog that can run fast, and then his friend Tails. It was the first co-op game I remember playing with my brothers. They turned it into a movie where Jim Carrey plays Dr. Robotnik.
Yes.
And Jim Carrey is the only character that could play that, I think.
Absolutely.
But also,
really
it's kind of weird. What are your thoughts on Sonic in general?
As far as kids movies are concerned, I found it very, very boring. I often find kids movies boring because there's just the story continuity is weird. And for me, if you're going to make a kid movie, it needs to be animated at least a little bit more than that was. I didn't enjoy it as a movie, but this is not a movie review podcast. It's just, is this for kids? Is this something that's appropriate for kids? There was a little bit of alcohol stuff that was a little odd in both the first and second Sonic that I thought was a little bit strange, that I don't even know that my kids clocked that it was alcohol. They might have just thought soda, but I don't know. That was the big thing that stood out to me. The
Sonic scene in the first one in the bar where he just like kicks everyone's butt is funny.
Yes.
And I thought that scene was like my favorite part. And my kids didn't know that it was a bar, that's weird.
Yeah, there's a similar scene in the second movie with a dance off in a bar.
Yeah.
In a Slavic bar of some sort, like an Eastern European bar. But they didn't.
Isn't that when they're shirtless and pouring champagne on one another though?
Just the one guy is shirtless and pouring champagne, but yeah.
Okay, so here's my thing. I just know I'm going to get labeled a prude when this thing pops out, and that's going to be fine. That's fine, whatever.
You are a prude.
The movie, though, is clearly made for kids.
I'm surprised you even have kids.
Stop it! I'm a good father and an okay husband.
Just mean with the prudishness. Continue.
I'm not prude in my own life, though. Just
I don't
want my
talk
kids
about
to be as protected as possible, but also I let them experience the real world. I'm not a helicopter parent.
Somebody's in here just gonna.
I think I've said that in every episode except one.
As the overly permissive parent, it's fine.
I'm not, but the movie, in my opinion, is clearly for kids. They're trying to. I did not play Sonic growing up, being like, I sure hope they turn this into a movie someday. There's no plot in Sonic, and if there is, it's not really worth following. So the fact that they try to make so many adults like it's like you don't have to do that. I will like a kids movie if my kids are having fun.
Yeah.
I don't mind sitting through a really good movie that's for kids. I don't need you to throw in the Shrek humor, which I still think is hilarious, by the way. I don't need you to throw that in for me. because it just doesn't. I don't care that much. I will watch movies that I want to watch with my wife and with my friends.
Yeah.
So the fact that they just had to add those weird scenes in there is weird. The fact that like I don't think Dr. Robotnik and like the other villains just they say things that are just like almost too evil and just kind of weird. It's just like, dude, just your whole point is that you're flying around with robots trying to kill a fake thing.
Yeah, and I don't even...
Stop trying to impress the parents.
In the game or the movie, I'm not entirely clear what his goal is. Is it world domination?
Yeah, he wants to, every villain wants to take over the world.
I assume that that's what it is. But that's the thing. And to the point of how right I was earlier and how wrong you were, which should always be the point, there wasn't enough nostalgia for Sonic for this to carry for me. Like, it just... I don't have any nostalgia for that game, and no one does because very few people had a Sega Genesis.
Yeah, first of all, don't even remember what you're talking about of me being wrong.
But you said everybody had a Sega. You said more people had a Sega
I'm correct about that, so that's why I got confused.
Oh my gosh, you're wrong.
For sure, people had Sega. And also,
more than
hotter take, Sega Dreamcast was better than any other system that had a disc. Better than PlayStation, better than Xbox, Sega Dreamcast, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, unbelievable.
All right.
Crazy Taxi, remember that game?
No.
Sega Dreamcast.
Literally can't name any Sega system games other than Sonic.
We won't be doing Sega ones.
You're gonna have to go back and play it again.
I don't know. So what do you think about Sonic? Is it for kids?
I would say that Sonic is for kids. It's falls under the same category for me as SpongeBob SquarePants, mildly annoying, and it's going to create obnoxious behaviors in your children. I would say as long as your kid is able to filter those things, 8, 9 and up ish. I'm going to go with 8 and up.
I want to just say 9 and up just so that I can always be one ahead of you. Mm-hmm. However, I would be hypocritical because I did let my 8-year-old watch it. And he remembers liking it and doesn't remember anything about it. The one negative thing he said was, I remember Zach being sad. There's a scene when Sonic has to like leave all his friends and he has no one. And so I'm going to go ahead and agree with you that Sonic is fine for 8 and up. But just like if your kids have weird questions about why things are happening, just talk
why
to
is
them
that man
about
shirtless and covered in champagne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they're like, Daddy does that, well...
You remember last Thursday when Daddy was done working and we were all very excited? You remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
The only time that Jody has ever... This is not... I'm not roasting my wife. My wife's name is Jody. I'm
always on Team Jody, by the way, if anybody's asking. Team Jody all the way.
Are you a love language person? Like, do you know the love languages?
Yeah.
So my ways of receiving love are words of affirmation and gifts, like receiving gifts. Like you could wrap up a tax bill. And I'm excited to open it because I just like gifts.
Okay.
And Jody has become better at those things in our 10 years of marriage. But the only time she ever had like a bottle of champagne for me was when I got my master's degree finished. It like was sent in the mail, my certificate. And I got home from work and I'm pretty sure we either had, I think Caleb was born or she was pregnant with Caleb. And she had like opened the door and she has this bottle of champagne like ready. And she's like, I cannot believe how hard you worked finishing your thesis. I'm so proud of you. Like you're busy, you're with work, like we have a baby, what, all this stuff. We're prepping for a kid, whatever it was. And in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't even real. I didn't even finish my thesis.
Oh. And
I never did. I can't believe I'm saying this publicly.
How did you get a degree?
They just sent me the master's. I wasn't done yet with my thesis and they sent it to me. So yeah.
Is it real?
I don't know. I requested my official transcripts and they sent those too. Never wrote it. So the only time my wife ever got me champagne was for something I didn't even do.
Oh my
Isn't that great? Anyway, I do have my master's technically.
I'm really happy for you. That sounds exciting. I don't have a master's. I didn't write a thesis either. So we've written the same number of theses.
Yep.
Theses.
If this podcast is continuing after 120 episodes, maybe I'll write a thesis on digital media and the impact it has on Gen Z.
If this podcast continues for 120 episodes, I will not write a thesis about anything, but I will post a video of myself on the internet making fun of you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That works. Mm-hmm. So today's episode, we talked about Mario, we talked about lots of fun things, and Sonic. They're both for kids-ish.
Yeah, definitely both for kids. Those are definitely kid content. Yeah. Parents are going to enjoy them to varying degrees.
Check us out.
Yes.
On Instagram, Facebook.
Right.
Like and subscribe.
on the
Is this for
YouTubes.
kids?
Yes, and then whatever podcast app you're using to get this, make sure that you follow it on that podcast app and give us a review, right?
5 stars only, though.
Right. If it's less than 5 stars, you're actually just going to go to John's Twitter page and just leave that on his Twitter.
Yeah. Also,
all mean tweets.
It's good to know that it's actually more fun if you leave a 5-star review, even if you don't like it, and then roast us, because then it's confusing and there's a better chance that goes viral and that you get your moment. So even if you don't like it, 5 stars,
Right.
and just roast us on there.
Yeah.
If you have any suggestions, I think that as this podcast grows and we keep doing this,
Yeah.
most of our stuff is going to become stuff that the audience has suggested.
Yeah,
So let us
whatever
know
they
what you want to see reviewed next on Is This for Kids?
Is this podcast for kids?
It is not.
This podcast
because of you.
is not for kids. Mainly.